Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Welcome to Ngosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. Over to you, Dr. Biggett. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Numsa. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. So let me ask you, have you ever have a time where you seems to be having somebody in your life going through things and how you wish to be able to help them, and at the same time things are just not working out for them? How do you feel at that time? And what can you do with your feelings? And how could you navigate that such that you will be in a better situations and everyone around you also in a better state? And I'm Dr. Burjiten, and I am a grief transformation coach, speaker, and author. And I'm here to help you navigate some of the least desirable, often feel most challenging time in your life, whether it is because something happened with you or something happened with your loved one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biggett. This is a very, very interesting topic. How do you cope with seeing your loved ones loses the battle? Is basically so many things that have been going on. This is what has been going on in the whole 2020 and basically 2021. Family members, they have been basically watching their loved ones losing their battles during the pandemic. And some of them, they're being told that they can't go and visit them in a hospital. And some of them have been abroad. Basically, they are fighting the battles, but you can't be there. How do you cope? You you are a grief coach, a grieving coach. How can you advise somebody basically to cope with that?
So a few things that I typically recommend, whatever the reasons of the grief, there are actually more than 40 different causes of grief. And watching somebody who you are, to whom you care very much, and at the same time the person going through things and you are not able to change things for them, can definitely bring a lot of grief and make you feel absolutely powerless. And so a couple things when we are going through things in general that I would that I always invite people to do. And the first is to realize, as Dr. Viktor Frankl says in his book Man's Search for Meanings, an abnormal behavior in an abnormal circumstance is normal behavior. And so to know that whatever you are feeling at the time, whether you're feeling hopeless, whether you're feeling very angry, or something else is somewhere in between, whether you're feeling acceptance, that's a normal things for you to be feeling. And that's actually important to start with, because otherwise you will think that you are abnormal in addition to things already going on, and you simply add on to your plate, so to say, of misery. And that's the first things. And then the other part, as with everything that is going on in life, if things are going on and we want to be able to to change them, I wanted to change them to navigate through them better or change the result or what have you. The first place is to actually allow it, to allow things. The more you're resisting things, the more you're fighting things, the more pain you feel from that. Now, I understand that it could be a little easier said than done, but at the same time, if you say, this is going on, and things, there are circumstances I cannot change, so let me just accept the fact that it is going on, and let me allow myself to feel the way I feel, knowing that it's actually normal the way you feel. And then once you accept that, then you will actually find ways to navigate this even in your mind. Then you will actually find people whom you might be able to help you. You might actually find the possible good of what's going on. But as long as you're resisting it, as much as you're resisting it, your energy, if you gotta push a huge big boulders, guess what? Your energy going pushing the big boulders that's not going to move. On the other hand, if you say, okay, well, there's a big boulders there that I can't move. All right, well, I accept there is a big boulders. Now your energy will go, says, well, let me see what I can do to walk around it or to climb over it, or perhaps to find somebody with a power tool to break this thing down into smaller pieces, or maybe I can go this side and do something differently. So that those are the two fundamental things that I would say is when things are happening the way you really absolutely not desiring.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biget. I agree with you. Sometimes allowing the feelings to basically fall through you, and having to, I know sometimes some people, they get told that when you basically feeling down, or when you allow the feelings to basically, that means you're weak. But sometimes ignoring the feelings and trying to fight them, it will only make things worse. But if you allow those feelings and basically welcome them and say, I hear your feelings, I feel you. Sometimes it does help to actually navigate through whatever is going on in that moment and not resisting them as well. So it does help. But sometimes there's some people, it's like if you look at men when they're grieving, it takes a long time. It goes on. I have no idea why. I don't know who told men that they can't cry, they can't show their feelings, what they're going through, but they seem to be. It seems to be a problem when a man is grieving. And women, sometimes they can express their feelings, but some, they feel that they don't have to express their feelings, and some feel that it's a weakness to show their feelings. So for me, if I want to cry, I cry, because at that moment I'm feeling the sadness. And if I'm feeling hopeless, that's when I use my beliefs. I basically have to ask God to give me strength. Like my mama had coronavirus, and for 2 weeks it's been a battle. I'm on the other end of the phone. Basically, I was talking to her today. She can speak now, and she was saying, I was like laughing when I heard the audio that, oh, now you are getting better. Now you can speak. And she was like, when I look at the phone, I did not want to touch the phone. And it was a battle basically every single day, me texting and trying to check how she is. So sometimes it can be very challenging. It can be very, very challenging, Dr. Biget, for just telling somebody to say out with the feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. But back to your questions, Numsa, and statement, and that's very good observations. And yes, many times people say it's, oh, the crying is, have you ever heard this? It's don't cry. Why? Because the message is you are weak if you cry. If you feeling feelings if you are cry. And I don't know exactly who started back in the day, right? But to start saying this, but this is what I see. I perceive what happening when you are facing your feeling, and if you choose, and that's an actions, by the way. Many people don't realize that facing your feeling, accepting what happening, and allowing you to be you is an actions. I may have many times have faced clients come in and say, I don't feel that I'm allowing what have you. I don't feel, those are not feeling anything in the English language that you can add the gerund that can you can create into a gerund. You can add the word ing and it still makes sense. And English is not even my first language, but anyhow, you can add the ing. It's an action word. So when you're allowing your feelings, that's an action for you to allow your feeling. But if you choose to allow your feelings, or to cry, for instance, then what do? Many times make people feel vulnerable. And when it make people feel vulnerable, guess what? When people giving advice to other people in general, unless you're highly trained, unless you have very evolved awareness, when we give advice to other people, we give them advice the way we feel. So your great grandfather or your neighbor or whomever who giving you advice as you growing up says, don't cry. It's weakness. Why? Because when they cry, they feel vulnerable, and yes, that's definitely true, and they did not have the training and the awareness that it's okay to feel vulnerable. It's actually take a lot of strength, so you are actually stronger when you allow yourself to feel vulnerable. Feeling vulnerable is not a weakness. It might make you feel weak, but if you go through with that, then you are very very strong to allowing yourself feeling vulnerable. But I suspect that's why, because the way people give advice in general is, if you don't have the training, you give advice based on your experience and based on your feelings, and they feel weakened, so they said, oh, you know what, it's a weak thing if you cry. Well, it's actually the complete opposite. And so that's as L. Nightingale says, when you judge others, you actually define yourself. So the one that says to you that it's weak to cry, if you're a guy or you're a boy and you cry, it's weak, most likely they feel that themselves, that they feel weakened, and not realizing that it is okay to feel vulnerable, and it's actually strong if you stay with it and allow it.
So much, Dr. Bigot. I basically love to cry when I'm sad, and sometimes I smash things, and it does help me, because at that moment it helps me to actually confront whatever is going on and get my feelings out there. And I feel that when I cry and smash whatever I'm smashing, it helps me to open up and talk about things, but only when I'm ready. When I'm not ready, if I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk. It's like if I receive the news, sometimes I cry, or sometimes I get a shock, or sometimes I just want to be alone. I don't want to talk about it, and I deal with it. And when I talk about it to somebody, that means I'm ready to receive any advice that is being given to me, and I'm ready. It means that I'm basically letting myself out there, putting myself out there to say, I basically need help, and this is what is going through. But at the same time, I don't want pity. I just want somebody that is going to be straightforward and help me to basically to get out in that situation straight away. but for some people it can be really, really hard. Or like sometimes when somebody, like let's say the family members, if there's somebody is losing the battle, they are fighting, or they lose their loved ones, some people, they want to call you straight away. Some people want to send emails. Some people want to do this. But for me, I prefer to send a message to somebody when I receive bad news and say, I'm sending love. I hear what you're going. I hear what you're going through. I don't know what you're feeling. So I just want you to know that I'm here for you. But when you are ready, I will come and see you, or we can have that phone call, and it's just to make sure that that person understands where we are. I don't want to invade their privacy, because sometimes people want to be alone. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you love someone also, it can be hard to actually leave them alone and let them
Yeah.
get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you shared that, because that's actually take us to the third keys that I shared, that whatever the grief that that comes to you, whatever that caused you to have the unsettling feelings, and I mentioned briefly, there are earlier on, that there are more than 40 different causes of grief. No, grief is not only from death, divorce, dire diagnosis, or job losses. The grief is actually the unsettling feelings caused by a change in your familiar routine. Now, of course, that includes if your loved one's going through things. But when there are things that's going on, the other thing that is very important when you're facing this, where your loved one is going through things, is to actually knowing that, now that you know that is actually normal to feel abnormal, is to allow, in addition to accepting the circumstance, to say, okay, this is what it is, and instead of me resisting this with as much as possible, let's say, okay, these are things I can change, so what can I do with this instead, is to actually to know that everyone is unique. In my teaching, in my coachings, and in my book, I share this with that you are like your fingerprint. And if you ever look at fingerprints, everyone has different set of fingerprints. And it's actually, if you look closely, each of your fingers has a slightly different print. And what that translate to you, that illustrations translate to you, is you are meant to be different than your brother and your sister and everybody else is, your neighbor, your significant other, going through the same thing. Because this is sometimes, let's say, and my heart goes to you, Numsa, with your family. But let's say you are facing, let's say you are a parent and your child going through things, which is a lot of time the most heartbreaking things. Your significant other might feel one way and you might feel the other way. It doesn't make it does that does not make either of you is wrong or right. It's a matter of different people. Some people has a tendency to get angry. Back in the day, I used to cover my feelings by getting angry at everything. Everything happened, I just get angry, right? And nowadays, that I have more awareness and I allow my feeling, then I would recognize, and a little bit like you, Numsa, I would recognize, okay, there's a part of me that still want to get angry and lashes at everybody for no reasons, with the way that I used to do things. But the other part of me says, you know what, you know that I recognize I'm actually heartbroken and I'm really sad, and then I just take whatever it is, an hour or whatever that my body and my system needs, whether an hour or for a day or 3 days, and sit and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry to the point probably my cat wondering what the heck is going on here. And so know that you are unique and your feelings moment to moment are unique. You might feel okay this morning, and then by the afternoon come, you hear something and you're like, ah, and then the evening you're like, I'm gonna do it, and that's okay. And that's okay. You are muted.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bigot. I like the fingerprints part when you say basically we have our own fingerprints as individual, because that means our identity is different, basically, and everything is different. So I think that is a powerful way to put that for somebody to realize that yes, you are allowed to grieve differently. Yes, you are allowed to take your time, and you are allowed to understand that you are unique, and basically we are all different. So I think sometimes it's nice to basically let yourself be vulnerable, and if you feel vulnerable, and not to worry about what people think. If you are grieving and good people around you, they will let you grieve. They will let you basically take your time without telling you. I used to think that I had to be strong, uh, but now I understand that no, I don't. I don't have to be strong, even if I don't feel that I'm strong. I have to express my feelings, even if it means saying them out loud when I'm on my own. And I allow people to be there for me. I basically, when I tell somebody what I'm going through, I don't tell somebody that I know they're gonna feel sorry for me. I normally pick those. I have people as individual that I talk to, and I know those people, they are just gonna basically help me to basically to get up. There are some people that I'll talk to that are, oh, poor you. You shouldn't have to go through all this and stuff. So I'm basically understanding that if I'm feeling vulnerable, I don't have to hide it. I don't have to feel that I have to be strong. If I'm feeling whatever the feelings that I'm feeling, I describe it out loud sometimes, or sometimes I take books and I smash it. I speak to my children and tell them I don't feel too good. I want some me time, and I listen to my music. But it's basically part of life. It is part of life, basically, to understand that we are individual, we have our own fingerprints. I think the way you put it is basically telling people that you have your own identity. Why would you want to behave like somebody else? So I think that is it. That is good, and sometimes it can be very, very challenging for some people who are not into personal development. When I look at myself 10 years ago, and I'm looking at myself now, like you were talking about getting angry. I used to feel like that sometimes. Oh my goodness, I used to feel angry when things go wrong. But now when things go wrong, I know that I don't have control over it. I don't have control. And sometimes, like there's some things that they say you have to sort out or legal things and stuff. And sometimes I question people that I am feeling really, really bad. And you are trying to make me feel really, 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 really bad. And I'm like, but you're not supposed to make me feel that way. So I basically realize that there are some principles that have been put in place in our society. They're not actually helping us. They are making us more vulnerable. So you have to create your own principles that you're gonna live by as a human being, because we are all here on earth with a purpose. And if you are going through something, what are the principles? Is there anyone on speed dial that you can actually talk to without them making you wrong? Carol Ann say, don't make you wrong, or don't make things wrong. And some people are blaming somebody and just focus on whatever is going on and sort out the problems. Like when I received a text from my mom today, I looked at the phone and I just laughed when I because sometimes my siblings, they reply on her behalf and I can read, I'm like, that's not her language, that's not her speaking. But when I read the message today, I just laughed and I was like, oh yeah, you are recovering. Now I believe that you are recovering. So it made me really happy, put a smile on my face. And but sometimes there are some people that have not been able to actually be there for their loved ones. And I know I have friends who have lost their parents and families, loved ones through the pandemic, and they were not being able to get there because of red zone countries. And it's been so painful, Dr. Biget, as a grieving coach. What advice would you give somebody who is going through that?
Yeah, it's actually the same principle. When you are going through things, to realize that it is normal, that to be okay, that it is painful, and there are times when you have pains and you want to first to acknowledge instead of resisting that, and beyond that is to allow yourself time. It's no the emotional trauma is not that much different than physical trauma. Sometimes it actually can be more painful, but just like if you are going through, let's say you're walking around along and then you suddenly got a very deep cut or you got a broken leg or something like that, then what do? You allow yourself time to say, okay, this is going on. And yes, it's painful. And here we go. You can try to keep running if you get a broken leg, which is highly unproductive, so I would say. Or you can sit back and say, you know what, this is very painful. And there isn't too much I can change about this. I can try to fight it and resist this, which only create even more friction and discomfort in myself. Or I can say, this is going on and this is painful. And so when you are in pain, if you are in physical pain, what do? You usually try to do the best you can, where you give yourself time to heal. Now, some people will resort to other things such as substance to numb themselves. And many people with emotional pain will do that too, and know that all those substance will only provide a very temporary bandage, and then afterwards you'll feel worse. Now, and at the same time, if you are in pain, let's say you are in physical pain because you broke your leg. Now, you also will ask for help. Typically, if you are in physical pain, it's where you say, okay, I broke my leg. Let me go to the doctor so the doctor can help me fix my leg, as well as the doctor can help me give appropriate pain medications that's not going to make me only become worse afterward. And the same thing, if you're really going through something that is just so impactful, then it's actually a process to help you move through that and seek out, just like you seek out doctors if you got a broken leg. The same thing, you want to seek out professional, whether it's myself or any other professionals that who are specifically trained in grief, who can help you, just like the doctors help you fix your broken leg. We can help you navigate it moment to moment and also resolve your grief so it doesn't become resentment or guilt. Either case, it only make you feel worse. And so that would be what I would recommend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biget. I like the broken leg. You keep running. You keep running. I actually did this, I think last year. No, I think it was 2 years ago. I went running with everyone in the running group, and for some reason, I don't know whether I twisted my leg. My leg started swelling, really, really so painful. But then I looked at my leg and I was like, going into crushes is not an option. Going into staying without going to work is not an option. I remember taking my handbag, going to have a shower, my leg is swelling. And I remember walking down with the tears, my tears. And in my heart, I'm saying, I don't have a broken leg. I did it for 2 days and the swelling disappeared. And I was like, what? The swelling disappeared. Honestly, I did it. I was like in tears. When I was walking, I can feel the pain. But every time I fight the pain in a fight, and I say, no, I don't have a broken leg. It was fine. I never went to the doctors. And thank God my leg wasn't broken. But then I realized at that moment that you've got to fight the pain. If I had really, really broken leg, I would have known. But I think I've twisted this bones or something. But if I had gone to the doctors and my family would have said, oh, you just need to put your feet up. So it made me basically realize that whatever I'm going through, or if I'm going through pain, I need to face it. And I think I still have a picture of it. And sometimes I look at it and I get scared. It was like, I honestly, I walked and I was like, when I was coming back up the hill, I would just feel that pain. I was like, bring it on. If it's the pain that I have to feel, bring it on. And then for some reason, my leg just disappeared because I refused the pain. So I was like, okay, so I need to actually face the pain. I was like, okay, I faced the pain because I had to look at my leg. I was like, okay, no, so this is what is going on. This leg is not broken, and that would be a good start. But it's swelling, something happens on these bones. But these bones are not going to keep me at home. I didn't go for a run. I didn't run for a few weeks, but I didn't stop walking. I just refused to use taxis, refused to use the car, refused to do anything rather than walk. I just walked. And I think it's the similar pain when you lose someone. It feels like the whole world has been ripped apart. And it feels like sometimes if you are weak, you can actually blame God and say, God, why? Which I used to do it 10 years ago, to blame God and say why. But now I just basically say, God, you have a plan. If this was your doing, I'm sure you have a plan for me and my family or friends, whatever is going on. And I try not to basically ignore the pain. I have to face the pain. And I've learned that I have to talk about it as well. The more you talk about something, not in a pity way, you're expressing how you're feeling, the more it goes away. That pain, the more you try, your heart basically you have a relationship with that pain, and then that pain will break away. So that means you separate yourself from the pain and then accept whatever is happening. Then you don't forget it, but when you look at it, when you think about it, it just brings something joy. You remember the good times. So that's what I do, just to remember. Dance away your pain, your techniques. I have your video, a YouTube video saved on my phone. Dance away your pain.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You do want to, one of your questions actually was, can you die from grieving too much? Yes, you can definitely. There are actually studies now showing that, because everything in our body is connected, everything in your body is connected. So your feelings is actually connect to your physical thing. When you feel something, you can just practice this. So that now in your mind, imagine, as you're sitting here listening to this, imagine that you are walking in the dark alley by yourself. It's dark, nobody around, and then you suddenly hear this noise behind you. Perhaps it's a rumble or something, and you are alone, and you do not have any equipment, what have you, walking bare hand. how you feel. Perhaps you start feeling nervous. And if you're feeling nervous, now notice what's going on with your heart. Your heart's probably start to race, and you might be breathing shallower, and you tense up. So your feelings translate to your physical thing. And if you feel deeply saddened, heartbroken, and so forth, then you actually, that will also transfer to your physical body, and it can actually influence the electricity and the systems in your body that can we have seen people where from the stress of that and everything, it caused their body they to start becoming weaker and have heart attack, have stroke, and so forth. So you can actually do that. And one way to actually lessen the chance of this happening is by expressing yourself. Imagine if you have things going on, and now you keep stuffing it and stuffing it in and stuffing it in, and it's kind of, the feelings doesn't go away. It just turn around, and it going after yourself. If you express it, whether through dancing or whether through sharing it with somebody else's, some people do things like painting. That's actually help you diffuse that. You help your feelings to flow, and then when you're able to do that, then you are able to hopefully minimize the physical impact from that feeling. And so that's one thing that I do want to share, that since you asked that, as well as you share about it, that you want to be able to express your feeling. And yes, that's very true. That's very important to express your feeling. And then, like you said, Numsa, focus on what you focus on what you want. Like you focusing on, okay, I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be doing this, and what's the good out of this? And if you believe in God, then you say that there is a reasons for this, and my God will help me. But even if you don't believe in higher power specifically, many studies shows that if you stay with it, you express and you do what you are supposed to do, then you actually will be able to move through that a lot easier, focusing on the outcome you want instead of focusing on all the things that's going on.
Much, Dr. Biget. I think you are right that you have to basically focus on the healing, because the outcome that you want is healing, basically. And some people tend to look at other people and start comparing themselves with the other people. And sometimes it is good. It's good as well in life to have a coach around that can help you as well. I've learned that the hard way. Basically, I realized that, I remember when I was going through divorce and I was grieving, obviously, and it was a shock that I have never gone through. And I remember making an appointment, and basically I walked into the GP, and it was like, what is going on? I was like, I have no idea what is going on. And it was like, what are you going through? Has there been changes in your lifestyle? I was like, yeah, divorce. And he was like, he just looked at me and he laughed. And he was like, so you're going, you need help. I was like, yes. So and it was like, describe. I was like, I cannot describe what's going on in my head. I'm basically shocked and I don't know what is going on. And he was like, I'm glad that you came. And he basically made sure that I got help very urgent. And he was so pleased. And I was like, I just felt this feeling that I've never felt before in my life. And I just felt that I needed to make an appointment. And when I was making an appointment, and the secretary was like, is it an emergency? And I was like, yes, it is an emergency, basically. Because when we go through grief, sometimes when you ignore it, it can get worse. So sometimes it is good to actually deal with it. And some people, like you were talking about substances, some people, what advice can you give somebody basically when they're grieving, they don't want to put the drink down. I don't drink myself, but I know there are some people when they're grieving, basically they comfort themselves through alcohol. And what advice can you actually give somebody out there who feel that, because like you were talking about, yes, taking drugs, taking substances, it can feel okay that moment, but basically that means things will get worse because you're not dealing with it properly. So what action do they have to take? Do they use the same principles like from the beginning, or?
Yeah, there is. With the Grief Recovery Institute where I train, we have the something called the 1% responsibility. So in other words, at the bottom of everything, you have a responsibility. Even if it is just taking a 1% responsibility. For instance, let's say your loved one, whether it is catches an infection or got hit by a truck or something like that, in whichever way. Now you can look at everything and you say, gosh, all those things are outside my control and I feel awful and so on and so forth. But you have you have a responsibility, and even if you just take 1% responsibility, you still have a responsibility on you feeling the way you want to feel, on you, as you said, Numsa, on healing, on you looking for help, as well as you choosing. Now many people don't know this, and and it's a misinformation, and they said, oh, I feel better this way if I drink this or I go doing that, and they didn't realize. But now that you know that those are temporary band-aids that actually will not only cause you to feel worse emotionally, if you say going through things and you resorted to say alcohol during the time, you might feel better. It might be even not on alcohol. You might decide to start going partying every night to numb your feeling. While you're doing that, temporarily, as I share in my book, Seeking Peace, temporarily you feel better. And right afterwards, if you ever get hangover, anybody ever have hangover from drinking? If you drink, you feel pretty horrendous, and you will have emotional hangover is one, and you also will have physical hangover, so you're going to feel double the worst. And it is, at the end of the day, it's back to your the 1% responsibility of you. Now that you know that, and if you've been doing this, you notice that is very true, actually, to choose what do you want to do. If you have a back to the broken leg, do you want to say, oh, I'm just gonna pretend that it's not happening? Now, if you have a twist or something like you, Numsa, then it might go away. But if you have a complete true broken leg, are you going to, it's up to you. You can say, well, you know what, I'm just gonna go to certain substances and then keep running and hope that this will get better. And now it's not, it will get worse. Or you say, okay, I'm gonna stop and I'm going to find a professional. In this case, if you're grieving, a grief coach, or if you have broken leg, an orthopedics person, and then get it fixed. And in the meantime, take the responsibility. You can go to a doctor, and if the doctor says, okay, while we're fixing your leg, please don't run, you decide to go running anyway. Guess what the doctor is going to do? My background, I'm a doctor. By training, I'm a doctor. I'm an oncologist, and from time to time we have patients like that. They said, we want to get better and we want to take these medications, and we said, okay, you are going to take these medications, and you might get nauseated, and you need to take this so you don't feel sick. And they will refuse to take that other part, and guess what? You will feel sicker. And so it's your responsibility, as harsh to some people that it might sound. Now that you know, you got to choose. It's all you got to choose and say, okay, I know that, yes, now that I know, it will temporarily make me feel better. And actually, if over time, as I share in my book, Seeking Peace, which is available on Amazon in every country, over time, even that substance If you ever truly do this, you notice that over time you need more and more drink, and because you start develop your body and your system start develop tolerance to that. And if you resort it, instead of going drinking, let's say you are partying or distracting yourself some other way, over time they stop helping you. Now over time, we see many people who says, I went to the party and at the beginning it make me feel better, and after a while it just make me still feel like a piece of what have you in the middle of the party. So you got to choose, are you going to go and allow yourself to receive help from the professional if you're really going through things, or are you going to keep trying to tough it up or numb it out?
Tough it up and numb it up. I smash it up. Yeah, that is a good advice, Dr. Bigot. I don't think you can tough it up pain. For me, I have to face it. I have to face the pain. But there's one thing that I refuse. If I'm going through something, I like to focus on the pain. And when the pain starts affecting my health, I like to say no. I'm facing it, but I will not allow to feel it in my heart. I will not allow the pain to give me stress. That one is something. It's a habit that I had to train really, really hard. And sometimes I read the scriptures when I'm going through something really painful. And also there's one thing I've realized, that like during coronavirus, I refused for finances to get over my life. And I was like, okay, if I don't have money to do this, to do the things that I did before, is fine. But I still have my life. I have to find reasons to be grateful of. And that it really, really helps me to go on, because it's like during the pandemic in 2021, the business wasn't going well. So I would look at myself and just tell myself that it is okay for me to have to go through this, but it's not okay for stress about money to take over. I would be like, in a month's time, I can have money back. I can have this back. I can have this back. I can go shopping and buy whatever I want. But if I let it get to me, my health, I won't be able to be who I was before. So I just refuse. I just refuse for anything to take over me. Or when, in a relationship with the pandemic, when somebody's stressed, all my friends will be focusing on their men. And me, I'm focusing on the coronavirus. I was like, I refuse to fight anybody during the pandemic. And I refuse. I have to focus on this thing that is unseen, because it's the cause of this. So I refuse to fight my family members. I refuse to fight my spouse. I refuse to get grumpy with it. I have to find reasons, basically, and look at God's kingdom, his character, how he was, and ask myself, basically, if I have this, like I have food, and then I start getting stressed, I'll be like, money will be sorted out. Everything will be sorted out. I'll be like, I just need to focus on my health right now. I don't want to, like when my mom was ill, I was like, she is recovering. Of course, I was like, I just need to focus on bringing the good energy without me feeling sad. I just have to just pray to God and use my beliefs and say, God, I'm grateful that you kept me until these years, that you've kept me. I'm grateful that you kept my family. But for my mom, she's in your hands. There's nothing I can do. Just be honest. Just use your beliefs or meditation, that whatever you use, or dance your way pain. There's some music that you can put and Pen, let the pen know that I know you are here, Pen. I know. I'm aware, and I'm not ignoring you. But I refuse for you to take over. That's how I deal with situation. I don't know some people. My family used to think I'm bonkers, but I seem to see them taking my advice of stop worrying.
Yeah, exactly. You want to acknowledge it,
Yeah,
but you don't want to allow it to swallow you or drown you.
of
Like, you
course.
basically what you said, you don't you acknowledge this is what's going on, this is what I feel, and at the same time you focus on the outcome that you want. Now you might say, okay, how would I focus on the outcome that I want if somebody in my life whom I love passed away? I definitely don't want that outcome that the person passed away. Okay, I definitely understand that. Nobody does. But now that it has already happened, that the person passed away or is passing away, what is the outcome that you want on your feeling? Do you want to continue to feel miserable? Or do you want to say, okay, well, we know that, let's say somebody actually passed away. We know that everyone want to be cherished and loved. And yes, I can feel miserable and cry over this. And of course, I acknowledge my feeling and my sadness. But would I want to stay being miserable and stay in depression and so forth, or knowing that I love my loved ones who has now moved on and passed away, and knowing that everyone want to be cherished, maybe I choose to the best I can. And someday you could not, someday you might not be even be able to lift your head off your pillows, but some days you can say, let's just think about, like you said, what are things that I could be grateful for? Perhaps that I had this relationship with, that I actually has been, we have 20 years or 2 days together, and perhaps what else can I be possibly cherish this person? What beautiful memory can I think about this person? And you might think about that memory at the beginning, you might think about the memory and you feel sad at the same time, and that is normal. But over time, if you focus on what you want to feel, now, if you choose, and I have some people said, you know what, I decided that I'm going to feel miserable for the rest of my life because such and such passed away. Okay, that's your choice. But then don't get upset that you feel miserable because you choose you're going to feel miserable. So, but if you say, I want to feel better, then let's do what you can step by step. And in the 1 hour talk, I literally barely even skimming the surface of what I can share with you on what you can step by step, such that you will move toward the where you would want to be, and you will be able to still remember your loved one. We're not forgetting them. Relationship never ends, relationship never dies, such that you'll be able to remember them, to keep in a way that actually brings smile to your heart, and honoring and cherishing them at the same times. And that's something that actually things that we as grief coaches hold your hand through and help you in being able to do that. And no, it doesn't take months. Some people said, okay, well, I'm just gonna go through this, and after, eventually I will feel better a couple years down the road. If that's what you choose, that's absolutely, I understand that. But if you said, I want to be able to cherish and love this person, and I feel better in shorter time than years, then in a matter of 8 weeks, 10 weeks, we will be able to help you to actually feel so much better. And oftentimes, even as you are going through things.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bigot. You make it sounds really easy. You make it sounds really, really easy, but it's. I think if you basically struggle to make your experiences unique, you just have to seek help, like a grieving coach like you, Dr. Bigot. Is very, very, very important to seek professional help. I remember, even though when I went to the GP, he basically put me with the therapist, and we worked on things, and 10 weeks. And then after, I felt that I wasn't still not enough. And it wasn't enough. I got somebody else myself, private, and I got the third one, and I got the fourth one. But then when I left the fourth one, that's when I got it. Finally, I got it in my head that I need to break away from the pain. But I didn't actually blame myself. I let myself take time to heal. And as I was going through, like, changing a therapist, and I find that everyone was unique and they were all trying to help me in different ways. But it was then me, when I left them, one day I woke up in the morning. I remember when I left that woman, she had given me the exercises to do. When I was doing the exercises, actually I decided that I had had enough, and I decided to fast for 40 days. And I remember that's when I actually got my breakthrough, that I had to break away from the pain. And that pain, it took me back to my childhood, to how I'm dealing with things, or how I was dealing with things. Sometimes I would not express myself, because I feel that, like, where I come from, Africa, out in Africa, you have to toughen up. Yeah, but my parents never told me to toughen up. It's just some members of my family. I've seen my dad. My dad always made sure that I speak my pain. Whatever I'm going through, we talk about it. But then I look at others, you have to toughen up. So I think I've got that, inherited that from there, where I believed that I had to toughen up, I had to be strong. There's so many things that I had created, a little bad habit that I had created that were affecting my life. So that's when I learned how to deal with the grief. But though I'm not a professional, I can deal with it a little bit, and then I can ask, and I always know that you are on my speed dial if I'm going through something, or something that I don't understand when it comes to do with the grieving. So it is nice for somebody to actually have because your environment as well, it does help. Who you're surrounded with, it does help as well. So to have people that you can actually talk to, because the therapist is not going to judge you. You don't judge people. You want to know more the pain, and so you can help somebody. So I think that is the most amazing about it, to deal with things and focus on those things, and then heal yourself. It does help.
Yeah.
So we come to 2 p.m. Do you have any words of encouragement you would love to leave with our audience, Dr. Biget?
Yeah, I would say two things. You mentioned that, I make it sound so simple. The principles of everything is all in general is very simple, actually. The practice of that is a whole nother story. The applying the principle is a whole nother story. And just like if you ever see swimming, most people learn to swim pretty easily. How could you swim very, very well, become a champion swimmer? You need help, you need guidance, you need support. And that brings me to the what I said, the final message, that my heart will goes with you if you are going through things, and know that you don't have to go through it alone. There are support, and the right support will help you feel better, be better a lot faster. On the other hand, as you already gather from this, society, people has so many misinformations that the inappropriate one will only get you feel worse and worse. So allow yourself some support. If you are going through things, you don't have to go through things alone, and it is possible for you to feel better if that's what you choose, with a lot more ease.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biget. I will say go to a professional and seek help. But if you are willing to do it on your own, do it on your own using your beliefs and find peace within that situation. It's very, very important to heal yourself and find peace. So we are here Monday to Friday at Ngosi Talk Shows. Please, if you're watching this video later, press some heart button and share some love with your loved ones. God bless you and live with grace.